I started writing a document, a pamphlet, or something like this. This is what I wrote. It's about wokeism. It's about socialism, etc. This is what I wrote. There's a group of very obnoxious people out there these days. Many of us find them very annoying. They always want to remind you how good they are. Whatever the latest trendy social media cause is, be it Black Lives Matter, Stop Trump, abortion, transgender stuff, you can be sure that they are all over it. Furthermore, they really want you to be wrong. They want to discover that you are somehow a bad person. Talking to them is frightening because they are listening to every word that you say in the hopes of being able to correct you somehow and thus prove themselves to be more good than you. In their mind, the way to be a good person is to constantly expose, denounce, and disavow other people. The more you call out others, the better you are. But the traits that make them so obnoxious go far beyond their excessive political correctness. They often have a lot of body piercings. They often have hair that is an unnatural color. They often classify themselves as being some obscure sexual or gender identity. They often openly discuss issues related to their mental health. Their desire to prove to the world that they are good is compounded by a very self-indulgent quest to determine their own unique identity and experience. No one has ever suffered as much as they have. No one understands their unique personal hardships. They are constantly seeking to win a gold medal in what some have jokingly called the Oppression Olympics. They are victims, and they are on a personal journey of discovering and rediscovering the various aspects of their own victimhood. In their mind, it is great to be a victim because victims are good. And furthermore, if you are a victim, then you get to be angry. If you are a victim, you express rage and hate, and it's always justified. And no one can tone police you. No one can tell you to cool down and control your temper. You are a victim, and as a victim, whatever you do against someone determined to be privileged is always okay. However, underneath the explosive rage is hopelessness. When they aren't exploring their own perceived victimhood and blowing up at people perceived to unfairly have it better than them, they look at the world and their fellow human beings with contempt. There's no future. The planet is boiling over. The limited resources are running out. Human beings are a cancer on the planet, constantly wanting more and more, and the future is bleak. One can prove they are good by using a low-flush toilet or riding a bicycle instead of driving a car. One can vandalize prominent works of art or scream into social media. But all of that probably won't do much good. The future is dark and hopeless. Rage when you have the energy, and stew in self-doubt when you are too tired to rage anymore. And of course, there's always the great pastime to take your mind off of it: drugs, magic mushrooms, ecstasy, cocaine, opioids, marijuana, and just good old-fashioned alcohol. And if you're cutting yourself or committing suicide, this shows just how oppressed you are. And you will get more and more sympathy from the world that doesn't understand your hardships. We're all going to die anyway. There's no future for our racist settler colonial civilization founded on preserving cisgender patriarchy anyhow. So why not zap your brain so everything is a blur? We are all on a long ride toward entropy and Armageddon, eco-Armageddon. So why not fry your brain and enjoy the ride? And nothing stokes their rage more than seeing people who have opposite sentiments. Exercising and physical fitness are triggering. People starting their own business or getting excited about their new project just have to be shut down. How dare these people be optimistic? How dare these people be happy? How dare these people not share the hopelessness and resentment that defines their world? If someone's confident, fit, optimistic, happy, or working towards something good, they must be stopped. They must be fascist. They must be a bad person. Such people finding fulfillment in their lives, working to achieve goals, having meaningful relationships with others, this can't be allowed. Everything must be done to stop them at all costs. Yes, these people are suddenly willing to work with people that they deem toxic, including the U.S. government, the police, and the military, if it means shutting down some confident, happy person out there. If they can take down someone who exudes a very different vibe, that is the most important victory that can be achieved. They might feel good for a day or even a week, but then it's back to the same old cycle of hopelessness. We have all seen this type of person. It's not just about politics, it's much deeper. It's a mindset that is being actively pumped out and cultivated from the highest levels. As people who want the best for ourselves and our families and our country and our community, we are repelled by it. But if we are honest with ourselves, we have our own share of it inside. We all do. What makes us different from the pink-haired menace is that while they embrace it, we are fighting against it. It might be harder on some days than others, but we are actively trying to suppress this pessimistic, destructive, rage-filled, depression-prone sentiment. When we see woke people, they horrify us. However, when they aren't attacking us and making our lives unpleasant, we have to admit that we kind of feel sorry for them. They are useful in a way as a negative example. This is part of what we would become if we ever gave up the fight. If we surrendered to this part of our minds that the social media apparatus and the richest and most powerful people in the world are trying to empower, we would be just like them. We would be miserable, determined to make others miserable. We would be repugnant, unpleasant, and hopeless. And we don't want to be that. And we know that. As hard as it might be, we have made a commitment to ourselves not to be this way. But we have realized that probably the most useful thing in not collapsing into this state of being is other people. And we can't do it alone. We need friends. We need our family. We need our community. We need our beliefs. And as much as we might get annoyed with people around us, and as much as we might disagree with them or be disappointed by them, we need them. We don't just need other people. We need something to believe in. Everything cannot be a lie. Everything cannot be a fraud. Truth has to exist, and we need truth with which we can build and stand with other people. Truth and other people who can build with us. We need to create. We need to perform. We need to beautify the world. We need to improve things. We need to help people. We need to feel a sense of satisfaction that comes from making a contribution. And it's not about making money. It's not about getting a better reputation. It's about taking the world around us and exerting our effort to improve it. We want living standards for the people of our community to go up. We want the level of material comfort and technological advancement to increase. We want people to live longer and have more children. We want life to be easier and more comfortable. We want hope. We want community. We want truth, and we want to grow. And if this personality that I've just described, this way of existing and being that stands as a starch dichotomy to wokeness, if that describes you, you are a socialist or a communist. Now let that sink in. I know it's contrary to everything you've been taught, but I'm telling you this because I have spent time not on American college campuses with my nose stuffed in a book, but in actual communist countries, in actually socialist societies led by actual Marxist-Leninist parties. If anyone has the right to tell you what communism is, it's me. I was the chair of the U.S. delegation to the 2024 World Youth Festival, a global gathering of 20,000 people in Sochi, Russia. I have spoken at international communist gatherings in Venezuela and Brazil. I've been to Crimea. I've met young communists from Donbass who are fighting to defend their neighborhood and communities each day against the Nazis and erecting statues of Lenin as they do it. I have been to communes in central Caracas, and I have met the most hardcore and dedicated fighters for Bolivarian socialism. I risked my life on a ship trying to bring medical aid to Yemen in 2015, creating an international incident. I know what the global communist movement and the new economy emerging in the world centered around Russia and China is really about. Have you ever noticed that every time one of these woke people who calls themselves a communist gets confronted about the Soviet Union or China or actual communist governments, they almost immediately say, well, that's not real communism. The contrast between the new economy that is emerging in the East and the woke element being mobilized by social media to control the West couldn't be further apart. Every existing communist government in the world, Cuba, Vietnam, North Korea, China, Belarus, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Laos, all of them support Russia and its special military operation protecting the peoples of Donbass from the US NATO regime in Ukraine. Yet almost none of the woke socialists in the Western countries do. The woke people hate religion and are determined to lash out at anyone who would dare argue for the existence of God, or even the notion that objective morality and right and wrong exist. But Daniel Ortega and Nicolas Maduro are Roman Catholic Christians. The leader of the Russian Communist Party, Gennady Zhuganov, is a Russian Orthodox Christian. The leaders of the anti-imperialist forces in the Middle East battling Israel tend to be Muslims, Sunni, or Shia. There are plenty of communists who are atheists, especially in China, but China has apologized for the way religious people were mistreated during the Cultural Revolution. The Chinese government is actively funding and building mosques in Muslim regions, and religious associations sponsored by the Chinese government are working to maintain good relations between people of faith and the Communist Party. While woke people consider exercise and physical fitness to be part of the fascist aesthetic, the communist youth of the world wake up each morning to exercise together, moving their bodies in unison. But the biggest difference gets down to this. What have communist governments done and tried so hard to do in every place that they have ever taken power? Build. Stalin mobilized 5-year plans in 1928, and with socialist central planning, he built the world's largest hydroelectrical power plant, the Dnepr Dam in Ukraine. He built the world's largest steel industry, the world's largest oil industry. Modern universities were constructed across the country. Eventually, the USSR invented space travel and made great breakthroughs in computers. China has built itself up to be the second largest economy in the world. It has the world's largest telecommunications manufacturer. It's producing half the world's steel. Communists in Vietnam have created an economic miracle. Communists in Cuba have created a society with the best medical schools in the world and huge achievements in literacy and medical care, the highest life expectancy in Latin America. The actual communists of the government, communist governments of this world, just like you, are focused on growth. Meanwhile, the woke people are obsessed with degrowth. They're opposed to growth. They have no optimism for the future, and they think human beings need to have less. They want to reduce consumption and the population. And that is the beginning of the piece that I wrote.